The internet is currently abuzz with the idea that Nintendo might follow an Alamo-style strategy and allow Nintendo Switch Online owners the chance to pre-order Switch 2 exclusively. Obviously, if you've been following this channel, you'll have been a bit ahead of the conversation on this since I've talked about this a few times, including in a video dated the 11th of March last year. Just another reason to be subscribed to Nintendo Forecast if you want to get ahead of the game. Still, the idea is a good one, and I think we should consider the logistics of it. Kit and Krista recently had a discussion where they noted the complexities of actually selling and how little control Nintendo has once devices are shipped to stores. Nintendo clearly has a large interest in traditional stores having Nintendo devices in the window, and they will want sales to happen this way. Still, there's no doubt that from their point of view, the margins are going to be higher if they are their own retailer. Now, consoles don't have terrifically high retailer margins to start with. It's very hard to find definitive numbers on this, but I've seen quotes on places like Reddit for retailers' share of PlayStation 5 consoles as anywhere between 2% of cost and $44, which would still only be 8 or 9% of the original price. Even if the console isn't run at a loss outright by Nintendo, they are still seen more similarly to loss-leading products because they offer the hope of future sales, and when you consider that consoles are bulkier items that require far more storage than games or odd accessories, you can imagine that many retailers may be far keener to get to selling games rather than machines. Nevertheless, retailers can't exist on hype alone, and so there is going to be at least some cut from sales of the consoles themselves. And for Nintendo, if they can fulfill orders directly, they stand to close that gap. It's not that the margin will be particularly large, but from Nintendo's point of view, once you deduct the probably fairly minimal fulfillment costs, it's going to be pure profit, and that might be very welcome on a system which probably has low margins and, if it's on the cheaper end of the spectrum, could still be sold at a loss. And while usually I would say that Nintendo might not wish to damage their relationship with retailers, I suspect that after the initial burst of hype dies down, most retailers would be happy not to have bulky, lower margin products when they could be selling Nintendo games which tend to maintain their high price point and therefore offer much stronger margins for the longer term compared to games from other publishers which frequently are headed for the bargain bins in far too short a time span. In Japan, Nintendo have their own dedicated group called Nintendo Sales Limited, who liaise with manufacturers and handle sales and distribution, and I can attest to the fact that ordering from Nintendo is a very pleasant experience. When I ordered my Switch OLED, it came in a pleasant Nintendo box. Basically, if they can get their core audience into the mindset of ordering direct from Nintendo, it is potentially very financially rewarding for them. Of course, this can also be problematic. There are at last count upwards of 34 million Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, and while I don't imagine every one of these people to hit the order button on day one, it's difficult to fully predict exactly how many would be ordered. What if 10% of people put in an order in the first month? Are Nintendo really equipped to ship 3.4 million units at the drop of a hat? And if they don't have the capacity to ramp up distribution and people who have ordered from Nintendo see stores selling out while Nintendo are not delivering, it could create a very sour taste in the mouth of their most loyal customers. I'm not saying Nintendo couldn't go this route, but they would need to be very sure indeed of their capabilities. That also includes their web infrastructure. They have experienced some very high traffic moments recently. Notably, the applications for the playtest gave them a chance to anticipate high demand, and what a demand it was. It took 7 minutes for their 10,000 places to be filled, which gives us an idea of the intensity of the demand that they will be facing. Nintendo Systems has been working extensively for months on their online systems, including the sales pages, but this would be their biggest test yet. Another option will be a kind of lottery system, the same kind of thing that they've been doing with the Switch 2 experience sessions and which they used during the pandemic when there were shortages of Nintendo Switch consoles. However, I can't see them wanting to have these consoles be scarce out of the gate, and a lottery system seems likely to not so much surprise and delight as confuse and irritate. Plus, the likelihood of everybody scrambling for the Nintendo site only for it to near instantly go down feels like a depressing option. So, is there another way to sequence the console launches? One way would be to allow people exclusive access in order of seniority on Nintendo Switch Online, with invitations sent in a staggered pattern according to the order with which you signed up to the service. This would allow invitations to go out on a rolling basis, with people having limited periods to make good on their purchases if they so wish. Done over a slightly extended period, a couple of weeks perhaps, they could offer about 100,000 people an hour the chance to purchase. This would certainly allow them time to get Switch content out punctually, and may be the ideal way to tighten that relationship with their key audience. It would also be one way of stopping scalpers mass purchasing accounts for the short windows of time and then immediately cancelling them afterwards. If, say, they announced this on the 2nd of April and it was valid for all accounts registered up to the 31st of March, then there would be no opportunity for new scalpers to come on board, but they would still reward all but an infinitesimally small number of new subscribers with the opportunity to purchase Switch 2. Now, some dedicated Nintendo fans may not be on Nintendo Switch Online or may have leapt off. I'm not sure quite how bothered Nintendo will be about disadvantaging such people, and while it may put a few noses out of joint, they may justifiably say that it just shows why people should be a member of Nintendo Switch Online in the first place. However, Nintendo do have broader options. After all, it's not just Nintendo Switch Online with which Nintendo interface with their fans, and they have around 130 million Nintendo accounts. It's likely that these will be less intense day one fans as a rule than with the Nintendo Switch Online crew, but if Nintendo could at least plant the seed in people's minds that direct ordering from Nintendo is possible, and people have good experience of ordering them in this way, it may prove to be a very good move for the company long term. Order bonuses have become a feature of the Nintendo Online Store for a long time, and with Nintendo increasingly having their own retail outlets, it does seem to be an area in which they wish to push. If margins on the machines are narrow, margins on the games and other attendant merchandising is usually much healthier. There is also an advantage to Nintendo specifically, as if they can link up data about people's purchases with the bulk of data they already have from people's Switch playtimes, Nintendo Music, and so on, they should be in a good position to focus their advertising even more precisely. If the rumours are true that they also have worked on some kind of social media offering through the next console, then a sales ecosystem to back this up makes even more sense. Basically, they could use the Switch 2 launch as a shop window for their shop window, as a way to prove that ordering through Nintendo is a great experience. So, will this actually happen? Honestly, as much as I can see the huge logic for Nintendo, and they will doubtless sell a great number of these consoles, it does seem fraught with logistical difficulties, and Nintendo is usually cautious about biting off more than it can chew. Such a move made perfect sense for Alamo because Alamo was only ever going to be quite a niche product. You can't say that about the Switch 2. The fact that some Nintendo stores struggle to fulfill orders of Xenoblade Chronicles 3's special editions makes you wonder about how Nintendo would be viewed if they were failing to fulfill much more high-profile orders. Still, the company is ambitious, and the long-term rewards of this move would be very significant. I'm not quite sure how to judge the likelihood of this one, but I guess I'd say maybe 50% either way, that they have some kind of early access offer for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, even if it's just through a lottery system. Thank you to all the channel's Patreon supporters. Thank you for watching, commenting, liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I shall see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.